Yes, that's right. North Korea has a weird fashion world. Kim Jong-il, the father of Kim Jong-un and the dear leader of the kingdom, had many titles. Perhaps the strangest of them all was fashion icon. With his gravity-defying hairstyle, platform shoes and sunglasses big enough to hide a nation's secrets, Kim crafted a look so uniquely bizarre it became unforgettable. His khaki jumpsuit might have screamed humble factory worker, but the man inside was anything but modest. Yet beyond North Korea, this odd ensemble captured global fascination, inspiring everything from Halloween costumes to internet memes. How exactly did a dictator's wardrobe become a worldwide punchline and a peculiar cultural obsession? Buckle up, we will have a deep dive into the dear leader's fashion world. But before the show, make sure to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Now let's suit up and get started.
Everyone's so fucking stupid. Why aren't more people intelligent, like me?
Our story begins in the 1960s on the streets of Pyongyang, with a young Kim Jong-il strutting like a princeling playboy in a socialist kingdom. Far from the drab image you might expect, teenage Kim Jong-il was a bit of a dandy. He stood out in a land of uniformed masses with his Western-style suits, skinny ties and slicked-back pompadour hair. Picture him on campus, hair immaculately pomaded and swept into a bouffant, rocking large tinted sunglasses, indoors and out, looking every inch the retro cool cat. Despite North Korea's official disdain for capitalist excess, young Kim had a penchant for luxury and style. He reportedly tore through Pyongyang streets in a shiny Mercedes-Benz, pedal to the metal with his shades on. He looked less like a future head of state and more like a rebel without a cause. Except the cause might be his own amusement.
Comrade Kim Jong-il is an outstanding philosopher, statesman and leader with versatile talents and capabilities.
This youthful fashion rebellion had multiple influences. Post-war North Korean culture absorbed both Soviet and Japanese elements. Kim Jong-il's early attire reflected that melting pot. In some photographs from his school days, he even sported a Japanese-style student uniform with a peaked cap.
Kim Jong-il conducts all his activities on the principle of centering on the leader. By his original thinking and activity, he wrote the Juche-orientated theory of architecture and opened up the great heyday of construction.
Of course, Kim being vertically challenged. He was only around 5'3" or 160 centimeters tall. It meant the cap and uniform only emphasized his stature, something he was quite self-conscious about. Ever resourceful, young Kim found solutions to boost his height in style. He became a pioneer of platform shoes for men, donning high-heeled leather loafers years before it was trendy. Those elevator shoes, along with his poofy, upswept hair, gave him a few extra inches. He was often seen in the sharp suits of the 1950s and 60s style, but with his own twist, pairing them with dark aviator sunglasses and a swagger. In an irony of history, Kim Jong-il loved to look Western chic at a time when his father's regime was condemning Western decadence. He cultivated the aura of a cosmopolitan young man, going to art performances, blasting music, collecting films, and dressing like a Korean James Bond. Why this flamboyance? Partly, he was testing boundaries. Kim Jong-il was the heir apparent, but he was also a youth with access to forbidden fruits. He had a rebellious streak against his own house, so to speak, a princeling who quietly defied his revolutionary father's sartorial strictures.
Kim Jong-il said that it was the wish of the president and he himself to provide all our people with such excellent houses.
He was also heavily into the arts, especially film and music, which influenced his style. As an avid movie buff, Kim Jong-il admired Hollywood's glamour, Elizabeth Taylor's gowns, James Bond's suits, Elvis's rockabilly swagger. In fact, rumour has it that his signature hairstyle and shades were inspired by Elvis Presley's iconic look and the slick-haired gangsters of 1970s action films.
예술영화 한 편 한 편을 몸소 지도해 주시며 인민군 군인들에 대한 사상 교양에 이바지하도록 하시고 소령을 형상한 미술 작품들을 많이 장작하여 군인들 속에 소령 옹리의 정신을 더욱 깊이 심어주도록.
Whether or not he consciously emulated Elvis, the young Kim certainly understood the power of image. He was crafting a persona distinct from his father, more modern, more playful, and ironically, more capitalist chic. But every party has to end. As the 1970s progressed, Kim Jong-il's days of carefree styling were numbered. His father, great leader Kim Il-sung, was watching. The elder Kim was a revolutionary hero who favoured simple attire. The Mao-style suit had become a socialist staple. The time was approaching for Kim Jong-il to step into a more public political role, and that meant one thing. The flashy Western dandy had to disappear, making way for a more orthodox image. The prince needed to prove he could dress like a sober statesman of a communist regime. As the 1970s rolled into the 1980s, Kim Jong-il underwent a sartorial metamorphosis. The once flamboyant little capitalist reined in his style under pressure from the biggest authority of all, the dearest father. With Kim Il-sung grooming his son to be the successor, the junior had to look the part of the dutiful communist comrade. Out went the sunglasses and silk ties. In came the austere uniformity of the Mao suit. For context, the Mao suit is known in North Korea as the Kim Il-sung suit, and originally the Sun Yat-sen suit in China. It is a high-collared, four-pocket tunic outfit that became the symbol of proletarian unity and revolutionary spirit. In communist fashion code, nothing says loyal, steady and orthodox like a crisp grey Mao suit. It's the same style Mao Zedong wore during China's Cultural Revolution, and that Sun Yat-sen had designed decades earlier to modernise Chinese dress.
In those days, all Chinese were wearing Mao jacket. This was both political and traditional. Few people would ask why we failed to opt for Mao jacket.
The Mao suit was practically the official dress code of North Korean elites in that era, the safest attire to prove one's communist bona fides. North Korea, of course, followed suit. Dressing up the Mao suit was as much a political statement as a wardrobe choice. Our formerly flashy protagonist started appearing every day in a plain Mao suit, usually in sombre shades of grey or deep blue. The suit was impeccably tailored, but deliberately boring, as a blank canvas of loyalty. Kim would button it up to the neck, pair it with matching trousers, and crucially, keep those trademark sunglasses away. I am a serious communist, not a petite bourgeoisie. When the young Kim stood next to his father at events in the early 1980s, his father would be dressed in military attire, while Kim himself stood beside him wearing an unassuming grey Mao suit, hands at his sides with an earnest expression. Kim learned to play the game, blend in now, shine later. In fact, an anecdote from this period suggests that if he had continued wearing his beloved leather bomber jacket and sunglasses too often, the party elders would have whispered that he was too Western, too rebellious. So he dutifully conformed. For about a decade or so, Kim Jong-il's fashion was frozen in this conservative mould. He became almost a background figure visually. Unlike his extroverted father or later his more showy son, Kim Jong-il was relatively introverted and camera shy. He rarely gave public speeches, and many North Koreans never even heard his voice. This secretive nature earned him nicknames like the Phantom. And how does a phantom dress? In unobtrusive grey, of course. During state functions, he'd stand quietly, applauding his father, a small polite smile on his lips, clad in that uniform suit. He was there, but not there, present yet inconspicuous. Clothing helped him maintain that low profile. However, old habits die hard. Even as he conformed outwardly, hints of the old flamboyant Kim peeked through on occasion.
Kim Jong-il's heart was always filled with a noble intention of relieving the president of his mental and physical burdens. Kim Jong-il said, "My heart feels heavy when I see the president, now in his 80s, still directing farm work in the fields. No leader in the world has ever been so devoted to the people throughout his life, undergoing all hardships as our leader."
There are stories of him visiting military units or factories away from the public eye, suddenly reverting to his cool look. Dark, big sunglasses shielding his eyes, perhaps a cigarette in hand, even a hint of a smirk on his face. The Mao suit era for Kim also served as a bridging time. In these years, he solidified his position as the heir without making too many waves. Fashion-wise, it was about appearing mature and dependable. Kim Jong-il was saying, "I'm an elder statesman in training, steady at the helm, no wild experiments here." By the late 1980s, anyone observing North Korea would see Kim Jong-il as a short, slightly rotund man in a buttoned-up tunic, discreetly shadowing his aging father. With the 1990s approaching, big changes were on the horizon. Kim Il-sung's health was declining, global communism was wobbling, and our man Kim Jong-il was poised to take the throne. And when he did, he also decided it was time to rewrite the fashion playbook for dictators. Yes, the battle suit is about to make its grand entrance.
A cultural and theoretical genius and an outstanding statesman who is well versed in the economy, military affairs, culture, diplomacy, and all other fields.
When Kim Il-sung passed away in 1994 and Kim Jong-il took over as North Korea's supreme leader, a new fashion era dawned in Pyongyang. The grey Mao suits were retired to the back of the closet. Kim Jong-il unveiled what would become his iconic signature outfit. It was a creation so distinctive that it deserves its own spotlight. Ladies and gentlemen, meet the battle suit. What exactly is the battle suit, you ask? Imagine a garment that's one part military uniform, one part leisure tracksuit, and one part business attire. The battle suit consists of an overall-style zipped tunic jacket with matching trousers, usually tailored from a light-coloured fabric, often a khaki olive, tan, or a muted bluish grey. It has a high collar, a sturdy front zipper instead of buttons, and a comfortable loose fit. The pants are straight cut, sometimes with a crease like dress slacks, giving a subtle nod to formal wear. In essence, it's as if a Mao suit got a sporty makeover. Kim Jong-il personally popularised and even designed this suit as his trademark. North Korean sources hailed it as a revolutionary contribution to fashion. No kidding, the propaganda machine claimed he invented this style like he was the Coco Chanel of communism. In all seriousness, this outfit was a carefully crafted image device. The idea was to convey that Kim was always ready for action. A soldier-worker aesthetic that blurred the line between military commander and civilian leader. Okay, let's break down the brilliance of the battle suit's design and symbolism.
But there is another General Kim Jong-il in our country. I'm completely free from worries, because Comrade Kim Jong-il, who is well up in both literary and military arts, is my successor.
The use of khaki or olive drab colours in a jacket cut is similar to workwear or military fatigues. There are echoes of a field jacket, utility pockets, strong fabric, reminding people that Kim is the supreme commander of the armed forces. However, unlike a full-dress uniform with medals, Kim's battle suit was relatively unadorned. This gives a sense of practical military style rather than ceremonial. He looked like a commander who could hop into a tank at any moment. The fit and cut were tailored to mask Kim's physical shortcomings and instead project an aura of authority. The jacket had a slightly extended, almost boxy shoulder line and a vertical silhouette, which visually stretched him a bit. With everything monochrome top to bottom, it created a continuous line, making him seem a tad taller and more imposing. In photos where he's saluting or standing atop something, the battlesuit gives him a no-nonsense, strongman vibe. And here's where the genius shines. Kim's battlesuit was touted as appropriate for any occasion. Heading to inspect troops? Throw on the battlesuit. Hosting a state dinner? Battlesuit works there too. Need to attend a ribbon cutting for a new factory? Yep, battlesuit time. It was pitched as a sort of all-in-one leader uniform. North Korean media claimed this outfit was so perfect that it swept the nation. Supposedly everyone from officials to citizens adored it and copied it. It's as if Kim found the socialist equivalent of the Western business suit. In fact, the propaganda claimed that the battle suit to North Korea is like the Savile Row suit to England, or the Mao suit to China, a national dress. Kim Jong-il, now the big boss, wanted to set himself apart from his predecessors and contemporaries. Think about it. Mao Zedong had the Mao suit, his father Kim Il-sung often wore either Mao suits or military uniforms, Soviet leaders wore their military dress or Western suits, and other dictators had their signature looks. For example, Fidel Castro with his olive green fatigues, or Muammar Gaddafi with his lavish golden robes and uniforms. Kim Jong-il didn't want to be a copycat. By championing this unique battlesuit, he could say, look, I'm not just continuing my father's style, I have my own. In one fell swoop, he differentiated himself visually from other dictators, and his outfit became instantly recognisable worldwide. You see that zip-up khaki ensemble with big sunglasses, and you immediately know it's him. In a regime built on a personality cult, such branding is invaluable.
Kim Jong-il said, regarding it as his motto that the people are my God, our leader granted the people everything he could. To our people, the great leader was their father. He took care of their food, clothes, houses, education, medical care, cultural life, and everything else.
Now let's appreciate how ballsy this fashion move was. Internally, when Kim first started wearing the battle suit in the early 1990s, even before his father's death, some old guard officials and certainly Western observers didn't know what to make of it. Western observers saw Kim's baggy khaki jumpsuit and dubbed it a clown suit or a pathetic 70s leisure suit, writing North Korea off as hopelessly out of touch. Little did they realise there was a method to the madness. Kim Jong-il and his inner circle had thought this through with surprising sophistication. One could compare Kim's fashion innovation tongue-in-cheek to designers on the world stage. Alexander McQueen might have invented edgy skull print designs. Kim invented the battlesuit. Indeed, in Pyongyang's halls, Kim was the ultimate couturier. His style decisions became law. He wasn't following fashion, he was dictating it. In a propaganda sense, Pyongyang spun it as Kim being humble yet prepared for combat, unlike those vain leaders who prance around in full regalia. Speaking of bragging rights, an infamous piece of North Korean propaganda from 2010 declared that Kim Jong-il had become a global fashion trendsetter. The state newspaper Rodong Sinmun boasted that his modest, zip-up suits were now a global vogue, adopted by people worldwide, all thanks to the great general's sartorial genius.
저놈한 난국을 당하게 하는 승리기를 열어주신 역사적인 현지 지도였습니다.
They even conjured up a quote from an alleged French fashion expert praising Kim Jong-il mode as unprecedented in fashion history. Kim's suit wasn't just clothes, it was soft power and mythology. So by the mid-90s, the battlesuit was fully established. Kim Jong-il appeared in it at nearly every public occasion. Military parades, factory inspections, meetings with foreign dignitaries, you name it. In winter, he'd throw on a big overcoat or parka on top, more on that soon. But the suit was underneath. It was like a second skin.
One day on the rooftop of a high-rise building, he tells the officials to build Pyongyang with a long-term plan and in a way that befits the capital of socialist Korea.
Common citizens couldn't exactly get the same quality outfits. Textiles were limited and luxury fabric was reserved for the elite. But simplified versions of the people's suit were promoted. The battle suit took the country by storm, and that men, women, young, old, all bowed to its fashionable glory. North Korea even tailored uniforms for industries and youth groups, inspired by that style. However, there's a twist. While the idea was to make the battlesuit a symbol of the people, the execution highlighted class divisions. According to a defector who once procured luxury goods for him, in the early 90s, Kim ordered 60 yards of high-end cashmere and silk blend fabric from Scable of London at about $300 a yard to make his suits. That cloth is the kind favoured by top Western businessmen and royalty. So while the cut said man of the people, the material whispered billionaire chic. Each Kim suit might cost thousands of dollars when all was said and done. He even gifted lengths of this expensive fabric to close aides, quite literally sharing the fabric of power. Meanwhile, the average official or citizen who tried to copy the look had to use local fabrics, often a rough khaki cotton or dull polyester blend produced domestically. The result? No one else quite looked like Kim in that suit. It's said that many who attempted to mimic his outfit just ended up looking sloppy or underfed because they lacked the custom tailoring and luxe cloth that gave Kim's suit its sharp silhouette. Think of it as haute couture for autocrats.
Kim Jong-il developed a Juche idea, Kim Il-sung's creation into an idea guiding the times and exalted Kim Il-sung's...
Clothing can speak volumes in politics, and Kim Jong-il was fluent in this unspoken language. One particularly symbolic wardrobe transition was how he used his outfit to signal the handover of power from his father. Remember that anecdote about his father's old Western suit and tie? As Kim Jong-il stepped into leadership in the early 1990s, he was effectively telling the aging Kim Il-sung, "It's okay to relax now, father. I've got this." Kim's adoption of the battle suit carried an implicit message to Kim Il-sung. "Dear Daddy, you can finally take off your marshal's uniform. Heck, put on that dapper Western business suit and tie you used to wear in your youth. Enjoy a comfortable retirement. I will don the new battle suit and continue the revolution in your stead." In other words, by creating a new uniform for himself, Kim Jong-il was signalling a generational shift. His father had been the military uniform-clad great leader who literally wore the mantle of a guerrilla general from anti-Japanese fighting days. For Kim Il-sung, the military attire and Mao suits had been symbols of hard-won independence and authority. Kim Jong-il stepping out in a modernized get-up was like, I'm the next chapter, same book, different look. He wasn't discarding his father's legacy, he was building on it with his own twist. Interestingly, after Kim Il-sung died, portraits of him often show the elder Kim in Western-style suits, whereas portraits of Kim Jong-il show him in, you guessed it, the zippered tunic. It's almost as if North Korea wanted to differentiate the two eras visually.
조선노동당 총비서이시며 조선민주주의인민공화국 국방위원회 위원장이시며 조선인민군 최고 사령관이신 위대한 용도자 김정일 동지께서 주체백.
Another layer of meaning, the battle suit straddled the civilian-military divide. North Korea is a party-army state with the military deeply entwined in governance. By wearing something that wasn't exactly a military uniform but still had martial overtones, Kim Jong-il presented himself as the ultimate general of the people. He was rarely seen in an actual military dress uniform with rows of medals. Instead, he claimed military prowess through this outfit, without having to wear a generalissimo costume. If Kim had just worn a normal military uniform, he'd be one of many dictators who did so, from Latin American junta leaders with aviator shades to African military rulers. Internally, Kim Jong-il took over at a perilous time. The economy was in decline, the Soviet Union, the big state sponsor, had collapsed, China was busy with its own reforms and less eager to bankroll Pyongyang. By the mid-90s, North Korea was sliding into a severe famine, internally named the Arduous March. In such times of crisis, a leader's image is crucial. Kim needed to project both strength and solidarity. The battlesuit helped him do that. It was utilitarian enough to say, "I share your hardships," but also distinct enough to say, "I'm leading you through them."
Greeting the New Year 1995 without President Kim Il-sung, Kim Jong-il sent a letter to the people. It reads, "We have seen out the year of 1994 in tears of blood, and are now greeting the new year. Let all of us work energetically, single-mindedly, and with one purpose, to make our country, our motherland, ever more prosperous, as befits the soldiers and devoted followers of the great leader."
Kim Jong-il often appeared on inspection tours, wearing not just the battlesuit, but a padded parka or thick anorak over it, along with a big furry Ushanka hat in winter. Kim braving the frigid outdoors, coat zipped up, hat ear flaps down, looking at factories or flood-damaged fields. State media painted these outfits as evidence of his sacrifice and hard work, enduring cold and hunger alongside the people. They literally made his old olive green winter jacket into a revolutionary relic. So fashion was used to tell a story. When people had no fuel for heating, the leader wore a simple parka. When the nation was in battle for survival, the leader dressed ready for battle every day. It's potent visual rhetoric. Further, let's not overlook a hidden aspect: vanity and physical comfort. By middle age, Kim Jong-il, who was a known gourmand and lover of fine drink, had put on some weight and sported a bit of a paunch. His health habits didn't exactly keep him slim. The battlesuit, with its loose fit and forgiving waist, was a godsend. Western suits can be unforgiving. A tight belt or snug blazer would make a pot belly obvious, and certainly isn't comfortable during long meetings. A stretchy, roomy tunic, much better. It allowed Kim to indulge and still appear relatively put together, without busting a button. Not to mention, North Korea's leaders are intensely image conscious about seeming perfect. The battlesuit helped conceal any imperfections, like a bulging midsection or the need for lifts in his shoes. In summary, Kim Jong-il's battlesuit was not a random fashion quirk. It was a multifaceted tool of rule. It projected power, bridged the civilian and military realms, indicated generational change, showed empathy in hard times, and even took care of the leader's vanity. That's a lot of heavy lifting for one outfit. No wonder North Korean media lavished such praise on it. It was as much a part of Kim's persona as his name or his face.
I'm so lonely, so lonely, so lonely inside real Rome. There's no one, just me only, sitting on my little throne.
The Western public, largely unfamiliar with the intricacies of North Korean life, often reduced Kim to a caricature defined by his weird outfit, wild claims, and eccentric behaviour. This is what we mean by Western misinterpretation of his style. To many outsiders, he was just a ridiculous comic figure, a clownish dictator stuck in a 1970s time warp. News articles would sometimes run those fashion police bits, joking about him on worst dressed lists. Few paused to consider that his clothing might have intentional messaging, or that it resonated differently within his country. So what is the legacy of Kim Jong-il's fashion journey? Kim Jong-il's transformation from youthful dandy to battlesuit-toting autocrat encapsulates the story of North Korea's own evolution from a relatively youthful socialist state under a charismatic founder into a militarized, beleaguered dynasty under a secretive ruler. His wardrobe was a mirror to his world. In the optimistic post-Korean War years, he could dabble in Western trends. By the time he ruled, North Korea was isolated and on a permanent war footing, and he literally dressed the part. Further, he proved that even in a society of enforced conformity, the guy at the top can and will craft a unique personal brand. Kim Jong-il understood image in a way that perhaps only a true dictator could. He borrowed elements from various sources, the militarism of a general, the utilitarian vibe of a factory foreman, the swagger of a Hollywood producer, and fused them into something singular. It was so singular that no one else has quite replicated it. On the world stage, Kim's fashion left an imprint as a symbol of bizarre North Korea. Yet, ironically, that unique look also forced people to pay attention. As we noted, he stood out. And for an isolated regime, any attention, even mocking, can be parlayed into a kind of infamy that makes others curious, which in turn sometimes opened dialogue or at least kept North Korea in the conversation. It's arguable that Kim's personal mystique helped him in diplomatic encounters. Many foreign envoys came away describing him as charismatic or different than expected, maybe partly because they were disarmed by how unlike a stiff politician he appeared in person.
And until then, I'll just be Ronry. Yeah, little Ronry.
Culturally, his legacy persists in the cult fandom sense. Fashion historians might chuckle at the footnote that North Korea once claimed a dictator's jumpsuit was leading world fashion. And in the annals of dictator chic, Kim Jong-il's entry is in bold type. There's even an argument that he unknowingly pioneered a normcore aesthetic, plain, functional clothing as a statement. Decades later, Western hipsters would wear bland, ill-fitting 80s clothes ironically. Kim was ahead of the curve by just being himself. One concrete example: a few years ago, Japanese clothing brand Uniqlo released a military-style olive jacket that people joked that it looked straight out of Kim Jong-il's closet. Uniqlo denied any intentional link, but the comparison shows how recognizable his style is. The next time you see a drab zip-up jacket or a pair of retro shades, you might recall this odd chapter of history. You might chuckle, you might shudder. That's the duality of Kim Jong-il's fashion legacy, at once absurdly comic and deadly serious. Thank you for joining us on this journey through totalitarian couture and historical parody. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the style of the Dear Dictator, be sure to like and subscribe for more offbeat history and cultural analysis. Until next time, remember, clothes make the man.
But not really, because it's filling my body with rage. I'm the smartest, most clever, most